The debt collectors. The mistake in the darkness. The trade station Meridian 7 floated at the edge of civilized space like a rusted jewel. It was neutral ground, a place where every species could dock, trade, and leave without trouble. The rules were simple: no weapons, no fighting, no politics. But rules only matter when everyone follows them. Captain Elena Vasquez sat in the dimly lit cargo bay of her freighter, the borrowed time, counting crates that should have arrived 3 weeks ago. Her crew of 5 waited nervously behind her. They were haulers, not soldiers. They moved medicine, food, and supplies between colonies that the big corporations ignored. 40 crates short, Elena muttered, checking her manifest again. That's half our payment. Her first mate, a grizzled engineer named Kowalski, spat on the deck. The Jeune cartel shorted us again. 3rd time this month. Elena stood slowly. The Jeune were insectoid aliens who controlled most of the black market trade in this sector. They had money, ships, and enough firepower to make even military vessels think twice. But they also had a reputation for cheating anyone they thought was weak. Get me a line to their coordinator, Elena said quietly. The call connected. The Jeune coordinator's face appeared on the screen, multiple eyes, mandibles clicking, voice like grinding metal. Human vessel. Your complaint is noted and rejected. Payment is complete as per our assessment. Elena leaned forward. We had a contract. 80 crates. You delivered 40. Contracts are flexible. Humans are replaceable. You will accept what you were given or leave empty. The screen went dark. Kowalski kicked a crate. We're dead broke, Cap. We needed that full payment to refuel and restock. Without it, we're drifting. Elena stared at the blank screen for a long moment. Then she smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who'd just made a very bad decision and didn't care. Then we'll collect what we're owed. The plan that should not work. The Jeune cartel operated from a massive cargo hauler called the Prosperity Fong. It was 10 times the size of the borrowed time, armed with defense turrets, and protected by fighter escorts. Attacking it was suicide. Elena didn't plan to attack it. She planned something stupider. We're going to steal our payment back, she announced to her crew in the mess hall. Her pilot, a young woman named Sarah Chen, nearly choked on her coffee. Steal from the Jeune? Cap, they'll vaporize us. Not if we're already inside. Kowalski raised an eyebrow. Go on. Elena pulled up a schematic of the Prosperity Fong. They take on cargo from dozens of ships every day. We register as a delivery vessel, dock, and once we're inside, we grab what's ours and get out before they realize. That's insane, Sarah said. That's desperate, Elena corrected. But desperate works when you've got nothing left to lose. The crew exchanged glances. They all knew the truth. Without that cargo, they couldn't afford fuel. Without fuel, they'd drift until life support failed. It was a slow death or a fast gamble. They chose the gamble. Inside the beast. 2 days later, the borrowed time approached the Prosperity Fong under false transponder codes. They claimed to be delivering machine parts. The Jeune didn't care. They waved them through. The docking bay was enormous. Hundreds of workers, Jeune, humans, and other species, moved cargo with mechanical efficiency. No one looked twice at Elena's crew as they rolled their empty crates onto the deck. Stay calm, Elena whispered through her comm. We're just another delivery crew. They moved through the cargo levels, following the manifest codes Elena had hacked from the Jeune network. Level 14, Section C, Bay 7. That's where their stolen cargo sat, waiting to be resold. The bay was guarded. 2 Jeune warriors stood at the entrance, chitinous armor gleaming, plasma rifles held casually. They didn't expect trouble from unarmed workers. Elena walked up with a data pad, speaking in broken trade standard. Delivery confirmation. Need supervisor signature. The guard leaned forward, mandibles clicking impatiently. Elena's hand moved fast. She jabbed a shock prod into the gap in his armor. He convulsed and dropped. Kowalski tackled the second guard before he could raise his weapon. Move. 30 seconds before someone notices. They loaded crates onto grav sleds, working with the speed of people who knew they were on borrowed time. 20 crates. 30. 40. That's all of it, Sarah called. Then we run. They didn't make it 10 meters before the alarm screamed. The chase through metal corridors. Red lights flashed. Bulkheads started closing. The entire station knew intruders were inside. Elena's crew ran through the cargo decks, pushing loaded sleds ahead of them. Behind them, Jin warriors poured into the corridors, weapons charging. Left. Through the processing center. Kowalski shouted. They crashed through a door into a massive room filled with sorting machines. Cargo containers hung from ceiling tracks, moving automatically. Elena grabbed a control panel and overrode the system. Containers swung wildly, smashing into pursuing Jin warriors. 2 went down. Others kept coming. Sarah was at the front, navigating by memory and adrenaline. Docking Bay 12, 200 meters. A plasma bolt scorched past Elena's head. She didn't look back. She just ran. They burst into the docking bay. The borrowed time sat where they'd left it, cargo ramp still down. They shoved the sleds up the ramp, working together, no words needed. Seal it. Elena shouted. Sarah, get us out of here. The engines roared to life. The cargo ramp closed as plasma fire stitched across the hull. Sarah didn't wait for clearance. She fired the thrusters and punched through the docking bay force field. Alarms screamed. Fighter craft launched from the Prosperity Fong's hangars. The borrowed time shook as weapons locked on. They're jamming our FTL drive, Sarah reported, voice tight. We can't jump. Elena watched 6 Shin fighters closing distance on the tactical display. Their freighter had no weapons, weak shields, and engines that were held together by prayer and duct tape. They weren't going to make it. Kowalski looked at her. Cap? Elena stared at the massive bulk of the Prosperity phone on the view screen. The cargo hauler was enormous, bristling with weapons, valuable beyond measure. And it was directly between them and open space. How much cargo weight are we carrying? She asked quietly. 40 crates. Maybe 6 tons. Dump it. All of it. Right now. But Cap, that's what we came for. Dump it. Kowalski hit the emergency release. The cargo bay doors blew open. 40 crates tumbled into space, scattering like thrown dice. And the borrowed time, suddenly 6 tons lighter, surged forward with acceleration it shouldn't have been capable of. Sarah understood instantly. Oh no. Cap, you can't be serious. Elena's hands moved across the helm controls. She rerouted all power from shields, weapons, life support, everything. Dumped it straight into the engines. The Jin fighters were still closing. The Prosperity Fong loomed ahead. And Elena aimed the borrowed time directly at its command tower. We're not going to shoot them, she said softly. We're going to make them flinch. The debt paid in full. The Jin commander aboard the Prosperity Fong watched the small human freighter accelerate directly toward his ship. His tactical officer reported impossible speed readings. They're going to ram us, someone said. Impossible. They would die. Human vessel, break off or we will fire. No response. All weapons, fire at will. Plasma cannons lit up space. Energy beams lanced out. The borrowed time flew through the storm, shields already gone, hull burning, but still coming. The Jin commander realized 2 things at once: the humans weren't bluffing, and they didn't care if they died. Evasive maneuvers. Move the ship. But cargo haulers don't move quickly. The Prosperity Fong tried to rotate, tried to clear the path, but the borrowed time was too fast and too close. At the last possible second, Elena pulled up hard. The freighter screamed past the command tower so close that it tore antennae from the hull. The shockwave rattled the entire station. And in that moment of chaos, with all Jean fighters scrambling to avoid collision, the borrowed time's FTL drive finally cleared the jamming field. Sarah hit the jump. Space twisted. Stars became lines. The borrowed time vanished into hyperspace, leaving the Jean cartel behind with nothing but damaged pride and a lesson they'd never forget. The silence after. 3 days later, the borrowed time drifted in empty space, engines cooling, crew exhausted. They'd lost the cargo. They were still broke. They had no fuel for another jump. But they were alive. Elena stood in the cargo bay, looking at the empty racks where their stolen goods should have been. Kowalski joined her. "We're worse off than before," he said. "No cargo, no money, no fuel." "I know. And you're smiling." Elena nodded. "Because they'll remember. The Jean, the cartels, everyone who thought they could cheat us because we're small. They'll remember the humans who flew straight at a warship because they were owed 40 crates. You think that's worth being broke? I think reputation costs less than fear. And fear is the only currency that matters out here." A ping came through on the long-range comm, a distress beacon, automated, old. Coordinates attached. Sarah pulled it up. "Derelict freighter. Corporate registry. Probably has fuel cells we could salvage." Elena looked at her crew. Tired faces, bruised bodies, people who'd just survived the stupidest plan in galactic history. "Set course," she said. "Because that's what desperate people did. They kept moving. They kept surviving. They kept being human. And sometimes, when pushed hard enough, humans pushed back harder than anyone expected." The word spreads. Ghosts in the network. The story spread through the trading stations like wildfire through dry grass. A human freighter crew had robbed the Jean cartel and escaped by flying straight at them. Some versions said they'd destroyed the Prosperity Fong. Others claimed the entire crew had died in a blaze of glory. The truth was less dramatic but more terrifying: they'd survived. In the criminal underworld of the outer colonies, survival mattered more than victory. It meant you were smart, lucky, or crazy enough to deserve respect. The borrowed time's crew became all three in the stories. 2 weeks after the incident, Elena received her first message. It came through encrypted channels, bounced through 6 different relays, untraceable. "Captain Vasquez. We have work. High risk. High pay. Interested?" Elena stared at the message for a long time. Beside her, Kowalski read over her shoulder. "Could be a trap," he said. "Could be our ticket out of poverty. Or our ticket into a grave." Elena hit the reply key. "Details first. Payment up front. No exceptions." The response came within minutes. "Agreed. Meet at station crossroads. Bay 7. Come alone." She didn't come alone. She brought Kowalski and Sarah, both armed despite station regulations. The meeting point was a dingy cargo bay that smelled like oil and regret. The client was a Thesian, a species known for their calculating minds and complete lack of honor. He wore expensive robes and cheaper jewelry, trying to look wealthy while clearly desperate. "You are the captain who challenged the Jean," he said without preamble. "I'm the captain who got what was owed to me." "Good. I need someone with similar determination. My cargo was seized by the Krevic Syndicate. 40 tons of processed minerals. Legal cargo, stolen through legal loopholes. I want it back. Hire a lawyer. Lawyers take years. I have weeks before my creditors take everything. I need someone willing to bend rules. Someone the syndicates already fear." Elena studied him. "The Krevics are worse than the Jean. They don't just cheat. They kill. Which is why I'm offering triple standard rates. Half now. Half on delivery." That got her attention. Triple rates would keep them flying for 6 months. Maybe even afford real repairs instead of Kowalski's creative engineering. We'll need specifications. Security details. Guard rotations. The Dacian smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. I have everything you need. The pattern begins. Over the next 3 months, the borrowed time took on 6 more jobs. Each one was the same pattern: someone cheated, someone desperate, someone willing to pay humans to fix it. They stole medical supplies from a corrupt administrator who'd been selling them instead of distributing them to colonies. They recovered a data core that contained proof of corporate fraud. They even broke into a Vex mining station to retrieve workers' back pay that had been lost in accounting errors. Each job made them more enemies. Each job also made them more famous. We're not haulers anymore, Sarah said one night, studying their growing reputation on the underground networks. I don't know what we are. Debt collectors, Kowalski offered. Elena liked that. Debt collectors for people who can't collect themselves. But fame had a price. The hunter becomes hunted. The Jeune cartel hadn't forgotten the insult. Neither had the Krevic Syndicate or the dozen other organizations the borrowed time had embarrassed. They pooled resources and put out a bounty, 1 million credits for the borrowed time and its crew. Dead or alive. The first attempt came at Station Haven 9. Mercenaries tried to board while they were refueling. Kowalski had rigged the airlock with a surprise, a cargo container full of industrial coolant that flash froze the boarding tunnel. The second attempt was more subtle. Poisoned food shipment. Sarah caught it because she'd grown up in agricultural colonies and recognized the smell of contaminated grain. The third attempt nearly worked. A saboteur got into their engine room and planted explosives. Elena found them by accident while running diagnostics. She disarmed them with 5 seconds to spare. We can't keep this up, Kowalski said, checking the timer readout. Eventually one of these attempts will succeed. Elena looked at her crew. They were exhausted, paranoid, living on borrowed time. The name of their ship had become prophecy. Then we changed the game, she said. The message to the galaxy. Elena did something no one expected. She sent an open broadcast to every major criminal organization in the sector. Not encrypted. Not hidden. Public, for everyone to hear. This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the borrowed time. You put a bounty on my crew because we took back what you stole. You call us thieves. You call us criminals. But here's the truth you don't want anyone to know: we win because people are tired of you. She paused, letting that sink in. Every job we take, someone tells us where to find you. How to beat your security. When your guards change shifts. You think you control the outer colonies, but your own people hate you enough to help us rob you. That's not strength. That's a house built on sand. Another pause. So here's my offer. Drop the bounty. Stop cheating people. Honor your contracts. Or we'll keep coming back. And next time, we won't just take cargo. We'll take everything. The broadcast ended. The crew stared at her. Cap, Kowalski said slowly, that was either brilliant or suicidal. Probably both. The response. 3 days passed. Then the messages started arriving. The first was from the Jeune cartel. A simple acknowledgement: bounty withdrawn. Truce offered. The second came from the Krevic Syndicate. More formal: your terms are acceptable. Future contracts will be honored in full. Others followed. Not all of them. Some organizations doubled their bounties, swearing revenge. But enough pulled back to matter. The criminal underworld had learned a simple lesson: cheating humans was expensive. On a dozen stations across the sector, workers who'd been cheated started reaching out to the borrowed time. More jobs. More desperate people. More debts to collect. Elena looked at the flood of requests and felt something she hadn't felt in years: purpose. We're going to need a bigger crew, she said. Sarah pulled up recruitment boards. Already on it, Cap. The new code. 6 months after the incident with the Jeanne, the Borrowed Time operated a small fleet. 3 ships, 20 crew members, all of them people who'd been cheated, abandoned, or left behind by the corporations and cartels. They called themselves the debt collectors. They had rules. Only take jobs from people who've been genuinely wronged. Never harm innocents. Always honor contracts, even when clients can't pay. Fight dirty, survive clean. The rules were simple because humans were simple. They didn't want power or control. They just wanted fairness. And when fairness didn't exist, they created it. One night, Elena stood on the bridge of the Borrowed Time, looking at the stars. Kowalski joined her with 2 cups of terrible coffee. "You ever think about going legitimate?" he asked. "We've got enough money now. Could buy a proper hauling license. Do legal work." Elena sipped the coffee. It tasted like burnt plastic. "And leave all those people to get cheated again? We can't save everyone." "No. But we can make it expensive to cheat people. Eventually, expensive enough that they stop." Kowalski nodded slowly. "You really think that'll work?" "I think humans have survived because we're stubborn. We don't give up. We don't forget. And when someone pushes us, we push back twice as hard. Even when we shouldn't. Especially when we shouldn't." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars. Behind them, Sarah called out coordinates for their next job. Another group of colonists cheated out of mining rights. Another debt to collect. The Borrowed Time turned toward its destination. Because that's what humans did. They survived. They adapted. They fought back. And when the galaxy tried to grind them down, humans simply refused to stay down. The legacy. Years later, the story of the Borrowed Time became legend. Every version was different. Some said Elena became an admiral. Others claimed she retired wealthy. A few insisted she died heroically in a final battle. The truth was simpler and better. She kept flying. Kept collecting debts. Kept being the person people called when they had nowhere else to turn. And across the outer colonies, in stations where corporations once ruled without fear, workers remembered a simple truth: humans don't accept unfairness. They fix it. One ship at a time. One debt at a time. One impossible victory at a time. Because humans might be small, might be poor, might be desperate. But they never, ever accepted being cheated. And that made all the difference.